This meeting of the Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees is called to order at 7:04 p.m. on January the 15th, 2015. At this time, please join me in standing as Nancy Watton leads the board's opening prayer and can remain standing for Richard Fleming as he... Correction. I just swapped those two individuals. Richard Fleming will lead us in the invocation, and Nancy Watton will lead us in the pledge to the U.S. and the Texas flag. Mr. Fleming.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings that you continue to bestow upon CFB. Thank you for this brand new year that you've given us so that we can continue to serve the students in our district. Continue to bless our students and our staff. Give us the inspiration to meet the needs of the future, and continue to guide our district leadership in the ever-changing academic and political landscape of education. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. Please allow me to read a few administrative comments, and then with that we'll get more involved into our recognitions. As a district, we dedicate all of our efforts and resources to our goal of high achievement for all students. And the board uses this goal to guide us in all of our deliberations, actions, and decisions. You will get to see all of our deliberations, actions, and decisions in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in closed session as stipulated by the Texas Government Code Section 551, which is commonly known as our open meeting law. And these items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with attorney, and real estate. For the record, all board members are here, and we do constitute a quorum, and we can conduct business on behalf of the school district. Also, as required by board policy BBD local, at each meeting of the board, the president will announce, and the minutes shall reflect, the name of each board member who has completed the required training, who has exceeded the required hours of training, and who is deficient in the required training as of the date of the meeting before any vote of the board is taken. Let the minutes reflect at this time that all members of the Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees have completed and exceeded the required number of hours for 2014 and have begun acquiring the hours that are be required in 2015. Now, with that being said, we will go to agenda item 2, which is recognition of special guests and announcements. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board and guests, thank you for being here. Standing room only. That's always a nice crowd to have. Guests, we know that time is a valuable resource, so we appreciate and we are thankful that you chose to spend some of your time with us tonight to honor our VIPs, but then also some other special recognitions that we have. We're going to begin with our VIPs tonight, and I'm going to start with a quote that goes like this: "Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. And thankfulness may consist merely of words, but gratitude is shown in acts." This VIP recognition that we do is our act of gratitude to our educators that work so hard and give so much of their time to help us reach our goal of high achievement for all students. So tonight, if there are family, friends, and colleagues here, when your VIP is introduced, please join us by standing and help us express our gratitude to these outstanding VIPs. And now at this time, Mr. Good, would you join me in the front to show our act of gratitude?
Good evening, everybody. My name's Eva Medina Walker, and I'm principal at Blanton Elementary. And I'm honored to introduce to you our very important person in the professional teaching, our PE coach, Arturo Cervantes. Coach Cervantes is a proud alumni of Carrollton Farmers Branch. He attended Montgomery Elementary, Vivian Field Middle School, and graduated from R.L. Turner before attending the University of North Texas. This is Coach Cervantes' second year as a teacher and as a member of our Blanton family. Coach Cervantes' desire to see every student succeed to the best of their ability was instilled in him early in life by his parents and his elementary teachers. During his elementary years, he found positive role models like his third grade teacher, Ms. Canopolis, who would tutor him in the mornings, and Ms. Sanchez, who through challenges showed him that he could do anything. I had the pleasure of meeting Arturo and his siblings when he attended Montgomery Elementary. Even as a fifth grader, Arturo was a dedicated and hardworking student. He arrived to the United States in third grade and in 2 short years had exited the bilingual program and was in an all-English classroom. He admires his sister Rocio for her drive and determination, but I think he exhibits the same qualities. Coach Cervantes always wanted to work with children and to be a positive influence in their lives. But it wasn't until he worked in the After the Bell program where he met and became friends with Mr. Banner, a former PE teacher, that his true calling became evident. He decided to become a physical education teacher. Physical education would fulfill his goal to positively impact students' body and mind. Coach Cervantes encapsulates his teaching philosophy with this quote: "The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet." He realizes that effective teaching involves more than just standing in front of students and telling them how to be healthy and strong. Teaching is hard and not for the weak-minded or easily frustrated. He stresses the importance of picking your battles to achieve your goals. He knows that challenging students is essential even when they fail, and they will fail. But success lies in rising and learning from your mistakes. He wants students to be resilient, to pick themselves up, to plan a new strategy, and try again. Coach wants to instill in students the standards of hard work in everything they do, grit to face the road ahead, faith that everything will work out, respect for everyone, and pride for what they have accomplished. At the end of the year, his students know there are no limits to what they can become. Coach has created strong relationships and connections with his students. A parent expressed it best when she sent an email to recognize the positive impact that Coach had had on her daughter, Olivia. She would ask her daughter how her day went, and Olivia would talk about how Coach helped her get over this obstacle, or how he taught her something new and how he was fun. There is always something new that Olivia shares with her. Olivia's mother stated that it makes her happy to know that there is someone who really cares for his students and takes the time to make an impact on the kids. To conclude, Coach Cervantes is an effective educator, a caring professional, an overall great individual who has positively influenced students through his PE lessons, the fifth grade lock-in, and being a student ambassador sponsor. The Cervantes family, his girlfriend Yesenia, and his Blanton family are here to honor Coach Cervantes as Blanton's member of the very important professional teaching.
Mr. Good, members of the board, Dr. Burns, and colleagues, my name is Brianna Fox, and I have the pleasure of serving as the principal of Country Place Elementary. It is my great privilege to introduce Ms. Megan Davis, our fabulous first grade teacher, to be recognized as Country Place Elementary's next member of the very important profession of teaching. It is no surprise that Megan has become a leader in CFB. She is a graduate of this great district. As a student, Megan attended Rosemead Elementary, Blaylock Middle School, and Creekview High School. She returned to CFB for student teaching at River Chase Elementary and has taught kindergarten, first, and fourth grade at Country Place. Megan Davis is a true CFB ambassador. Our motto at Country Place is work hard, play hard, and Megan Davis is truly a living example of this motto. Megan, our staff laughs. Megan serves as a member of our Instructional Rounds team, the Campus Improvement Committee, and Family Math Night Committee. In addition, Ms. Davis coordinates the silent auction, attends the CFB ISD Leadership Academy for aspiring administrators, and is the teacher representative for the Country Place PTA Board. In the fall semester alone, Megan taught first grade in a self-contained classroom setting, mentored 2 student teachers, planned and organized Winter Wonderland for our students, coordinated a PTA membership drive, and led professional development for the staff. Megan spent countless hours over the summer helping on our campus interview committees, helping the new principal get to know Country Place, working out a perfect master schedule, and she even assisted with registration. Megan did all of this while planning her upcoming wedding, attending SMU, working towards her master's degree in educational administration, and maintained straight A's, ran her second marathon, and bought a house. You might think all of this stress would start to show, but Megan is passionate about her work. She signs her emails joyfully, Megan, which is a perfect description of who she is every single day. Megan is an incredible teacher and will no doubt make an amazing administrator in the near future. She is kind, supportive, and encouraging. Ms. Davis demonstrates sound judgment, works efficiently, and promotes positivity everywhere she goes. When asked why she does all that she does, her response was simple: because someone did it for me, and I want to give back to the community that has given me so much. I am a product of this district. CFB has been my home since I was 5 years old. The fact that Megan's colleagues nominated her for both the Unsung Hero and the VIP awards this year is indicative of how our team feels about Ms. Davis. Perhaps the words written directly by our staff say it best. Megan never hesitates to help. She is friendly and helpful to everyone. Megan is all around awesome. She gives her students everything they need to learn and grow. Davis always volunteers to do extra and help out even though her plate is completely full. She is one of the most dedicated, hardworking people I know. She is loyal and loving to her students and brings joy and laughter to her colleagues. She always makes it a point to say hello to me every day. The thought of losing her next year sickens me. That's the honest truth, Bree Fox. Let's just keep her here forever. I think our secretary doesn't ever want you to leave us. We are so proud of Megan, but we know schools can't do it alone. Megan has had a great family support system. She's joined tonight by her proud parents, Diane and Matt Davis, and her sister-in-law, Kelly Davis. And also here to support Megan is her soon-to-be husband, Neil Forbes, his parents, and her future in-laws, Doug and Mary Forbes. Thank you for joining me in congratulating Miss Megan Davis as the Country Place VIP.
Good evening. My name is Aviance Jones, principal of Las Colinas Elementary IB World School. My staff and I are here tonight to introduce you to our newest member of the very important profession of teaching, Mrs. Kathleen Fry. Mrs. Fry, our diligent, dedicated, knowledgeable, optimistic, and just overall stupendous speech pathologist, is well deserving of this honor due to all of the hard work she puts in for the students of Carrollton Farmers Branch. I say Carrollton Farmers Branch and not just Las Colinas because Kathleen is not just a Mustang. She is also a McCamey trailblazer. Therefore, her impact spans from the west side to the east side. And because of her greatness, I am convinced it is sprinkled throughout our wonderful district as well. She makes children smile, stand taller, and speak more eloquently. And this is not just done with the tests she gives or the lessons she teaches, but it is also done with the care in her conversations and the love in her heart. Her students shared many great things about her. One student said, "Mrs. Fry is the greatest speech teacher ever. She never gives up on us even when we're failing. She makes everything fun and is always there for us when we need her." Another student shared, "She's very kind. She corrects us when we are wrong and helps us find the right voice. Mrs. Fry makes me feel like I want to be like her one day." The Mustang teachers and staff are in the same way impressed with the strong work ethic and enthusiasm Mrs. Fry brings to Las Colinas. Mrs. Wright, our fourth grade reading teacher, says, "Kathleen is truly dedicated to making sure our students have every opportunity to be successful. She is always present for them and sees every moment as valuable. She is a wonderful part of our LCE family, and I am so very appreciative of all the hard work she puts into her calling." One of our kindergarten teachers, Mrs. Dunn, added, "I think she is awesome. She is diligent about her schedule, and the kids love going to her. I'm also impressed with her wealth of knowledge. Every time I sit in an ARD with her, I always learn something new. A frontal lisp, an Arctic problem, a stutter, nothing shakes her up." As you've heard, Mrs. Fry is a valued and respected member of our Mustang team. She is also a devoted wife to her husband, Brad, and a wonderful mother to her children, Alexis and Dylan. I know they feel as blessed as we do to have Kathleen as part of their lives. Las Colinas Elementary IB World School and Carrollton Farmers Branch are indeed fortunate to have Mrs. Kathleen Fry as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Hello, I am Yanette Cardoza, principal at McWhorter Elementary School. We are here tonight to introduce you to our newest member in the very important profession of teaching, Courtney Pretorius. Courtney has been with us 5 years, 2 of them in kinder, 2 in first, and for the first time as our rocking reading recovery teacher. She's an integral part and a leader at our school. She has served in our Back to School Bash planning team, Campus Improvement Council, Solution Seekers, and our campus curriculum team. Through her work, Courtney has helped to organize our Reading Under the Stars Night, our Campus Science Fair, Cultural Night, and our Summer Reading Program, which isn't your typical reading at home and earning prizes program. It's a full-blown summer program with curriculum and teachers. Ms. Pretorius' students adore her. Brody said, "Ms. Pretorius is awesome, and she helps us learn. She helps us figure it out, and we learn how to read." Ayana said, "She's very nice because she gives us treats and when we improve with reading." Adisa said, "When I get stuck on a word, she helps me, but I have to figure it out myself. She's nice and always helps me get gooder at reading and writing." But Raven put it best. "She helps people she cares about. We care about her." The McWhorter team also holds Courtney Pretorius in a high regard. Former first grade teammate Ms. Harris shared, "Courtney always takes time to help, even though she's not even technically a part of our team anymore." Alex Claire in kinder said, "She is willing to help whenever she is needed. She offers advice and suggestions and is always positive." Courtney is so dedicated to her work, said Miss Fletcher. I see her work, her magic as a reading recovery teacher. She loves our kids here at McWhorter and truly does her job with passion, love, and dedication. Jody Armstrong, our BRS, shared a story with us. And it was Courtney's first year of teaching. She came to check in on her during her planning period, and she finds Courtney on the floor crying. And like most new teachers, she just wanted to make a difference, and she just didn't feel like she was the best that she could be at that time. Jody just kind of let her listen to her, made her feel okay, and that things would get easier. And 5 years later, wow, here we are celebrating all of Miss Pretorius's hard work. We're so grateful and so honored to have you. You embody our school motto of doing whatever it takes with passion, love, and dedication, not just for your students, but for our staff and our parents. So please join us in celebrating, honoring Miss Courtney Pretorius as a very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, Dr. Burns, President Good, and distinguished board members. I'm Charlotte Sasser, the principal of Annie Heads Rainwater Elementary. We are here tonight to introduce our newest member of the very important profession of teaching, Miss Madeline Minnick. As we all know, CFB attracts and produces some truly amazing people. Madeline is one of those special people. She comes to us straight from the heartland of CFB, where she attended Creekview High School. During her high school days, she participated in the Moving Ground Dance Company, the Pep Squad, and the Creekview Chevals. In fact, she was a Creekview Cheval Junior Lieutenant and the Senior Captain. She graduated from Creekview in 2006. Madeline went to Texas Tech from 2006 to 2010. She continued to dance while attending Tech as one of the Texas Tech Pom Squad members. With all this dancing, one would think that dancing would have been her major, but not so. Madeline majored in early childhood development. After graduating in May 2010, Madeline found it difficult to secure a teaching job, but she kept her foot in the door by subbing in CFB. Then in 2012, I had the opportunity to hire Madeline as my small group reading teacher. I was very impressed with her skills. She was organized, punctual, and had such dedication for her children. With that, when the third grade position opened, Madeline was ready for that job. The team thought highly of her, and from that day forward, Madeline has been a rainwater hurricane. Even today, Madeline continues dancing to many beats. She's the team leader for the third grade, the GT teacher of record, and the after-school dance instructor. Yes, the after-school dance instructor. We were fortunate in that Madeline didn't give up her dancing. Through her passion, the students of Rainwater have been provided with a fabulous opportunity to participate in and out of class with some amazing things, as she is the dance club instructor, as mentioned. When I spoke with her, a few of her students from her class and the dance club, I was warned by the comments that they made. Reese Nottingham said, Mrs. Minnick cares about her students and the faculty. We would all appreciate Mrs. Minnick and all of her hard work. We would not know how much we miss her. We would not know how much we miss her. Presley, a dance club member, said, you are an amazing teacher. You really do inspire me. Thank you for everything that you do. Victoria Jones appreciatively stated, Mrs. Minnick is the best at everything she puts herself and her mind into doing. I mean, she went with her determination and created the dance club. I can't think of anyone else who deserves this award. Jasmine Castro speaks to Mrs. Minnick's drive for high achievement for all students. You keep pushing me so I never give up. Thank you so much. I love you, Mrs. Minnick. Likewise, her colleagues also had some amazing words to say about her. One teammate said, not only is she a team leader, she's a great supporter of our school. She enriches the lives of our students through her positive attitude and her amazing dance club. They love that dance club. Yet another teammate said she provides opportunities for students to be their best in and out of the classroom. She gets to know her students on a more personal level and makes sure that all students feel special. We are truly honored tonight to have a teammate such as Mrs. Minnick and a colleague and a supporter of children. And for all of these qualities, Madeline Minnick is truly a very important profession teacher. Thank you.
Well, we're going to continue with alumni night here. Okay, you've heard many that are former CFPs. We have another special VIP tonight who's a graduate, also a graduate of CFB in Arl Turner High School. And we are honored tonight to have with us Judge Brandon Birmingham. And also another CFB graduate, an Arl Turner graduate, Mr. Richard Fleming up here, is going to do the honors of telling us a little bit about Judge Birmingham's accomplishments and why we are so proud of him in CFB. Mr. Fleming.
On January 1st of this year, Brandon Birmingham was sworn in as judge of the 292nd Judicial District Court, a felony trial court in and for Dallas County. Brandon is former chief felony prosecutor with Dallas County District Attorney's Office and former chief of cold case unit. Brandon is a national and statewide lecturer, former member of the College of State Bar of Texas. Judge Birmingham has been featured on national TV shows and has been a local expert, local legal expert for local TV shows. Brandon states that his proudest moment as a prosecutor was bringing the killer of Fred and Mildred Finch to justice after 30 years of their brutal killing. For those of you that are not familiar with the case, Fred Finch was a civil rights attorney that helped integrate schools in North Texas, the first of which was Carrollton High School, later to be known as R.L. Turner High School. Brandon Birmingham is a lifelong resident of Carrollton, where he attended DeWitt Perry Junior High, graduated from R.L. Turner High School in 1994. Brandon is joined here tonight with his wife, Carrie, who is also a lifelong resident of Carrollton and a 1994 graduate of Newman Smith High School. They have two children, Jack and Madeline, both of whom currently attend CFB schools. Ladies and gentlemen, our very important alumni, Judge Brandon Birmingham.
Don't go away. We have a few more things. Keep your seat. Mr. Good and members of the board, we do have a couple more recognition. Well, one more recognition tonight, and then it's an announcement to make. But for those of you in the audience, sir, if you're not aware, that January in Texas is School Board Appreciation Month, and so you know, we like to take this opportunity to recognize this school board in front of you here for all that they've done. But also, I want to say is that we shouldn't just wait till January every year to appreciate our board members. So each month they give a lot of time, a lot of effort, and they do it for no pay. They do it just solely to help the students of this school district and to help this district reach its goal. So I'm very honored and privileged to work with such a fine group of people. And, you know, I always say to people ask me, what's the secret in CFB? I said, it starts with our governance team telling us and helping us focus on the main thing, which is student achievement. And in all research you read about school districts, you'll find the one common denominator in effective school boards is they focus on student achievement. That's their focus. They know why they're here, and that's to help students achieve and find the resources that it takes to make that happen. And so, just take this opportunity on behalf of our staff, and I think I speak for many people out there to tell this board how much we appreciate you and all that you do for the students of CFB and for this community. And now we also have a little special performance for you tonight. So at this time, Miss Christina Pop from Creekview High School, she's going to come forth and perform an oratory for you in your honor. Christina is under the direction of Mr. Robert Shepard, who's also back there in the back. Mr. Shepard, wave at us. Thank you for all that you do as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina.
What I just said was that while I was driving here, I was so nervous about this performance that I almost threw up all over my perfectly tailored suit. But you guys had no idea what I was saying. And what seemed to you like your typical white girl, I dissolved when gibberish spewed from my mouth and my culture was unfair. Yet, while I am a Romanian-born American citizen and am fluent in the Romanian language, I could sing you every word of the Star-Spangled Banner so badly. But I couldn't even tell you the first word to my own nation's national anthem. I know the exact price and ingredients of a kid's meal at Whataburger, $4.75 plus tax. But I couldn't even tell you the first step to the making of my grandmother's famous homemade cabbage rolls. I am one of many individuals losing her culture, especially in a nation known as the melting pot. We are blending too much together, burying the roots of our family tree so far down that sometimes we lose them completely. And thus is my concern, that we have stopped preserving our culture at the expense of development, leading to assimilation and the loss of identity. So, how do we regain these cultural roots? Well, in the spirit of the family tree, we must start at the root of the problem, to redefine culture and explain why it is so important to keep hold of it. Second, we will examine the negative impacts of cutting down our family tree, or what is at stake if we stop paying attention to these quickly dissolving cultures. And finally, we will embark on a journey to help us find some solutions that will help us all grow culturally. Deci, ce înseamnă să ai cultură? So, what does it even mean to have culture? Well, to me, my culture is the smell of home-cooked food that lures around my house every day, that my friends constantly cringe at. It's where I feel most like myself. At the University of Nigeria, they define culture as the way of life of its people, the collection of ideas and habits which are transmitted from generation to generation. Even social scientists view culture as a way of life. And so when we lose that, we are essentially at risk of losing what makes our world so unique. That sense of diversity, no matter where you go. So I especially felt this diversity this summer when I went on a trip to Mexico with 8 Romanian women and one very unfortunate 10-year-old boy. What shocked me most about the trip wasn't just the pineapples they carved little faces into that you could drink out of, but that the natives there spoke to you in Spanish, no matter what language they knew that you spoke. And although frustrating to constantly try and reply using a third language, I struggled through because I knew how important it was for these people to preserve the one thing that made them unique. Although, let me tell you, while a white girl standing up here speaking to you in Romanian is pretty impressive, a white girl attempting to speak Spanish does not fall into that same category. Cine se aseamănă se adună. It is this Romanian proverb meaning, those who are alike gather. The problem in America today is that we've either split into the groups most like our own, leading to assimilation, or have completely disregarded where we come from, leading to that lack of identity. So you see Chinatowns and Little Italy's cover the nation. And cultural assimilation is where you take one group's culture and you if you were born into your cultural background. But those born into a different cultural background find it much harder to adapt. For example, in a study done by the National Communication Journal, 67 African Americans going to predominantly white schools were surveyed. In the survey, the students stated that they felt a pressure between integrating into the dominant white culture while at the same time trying to honor their culture and Black pride. This leads to that next issue, the loss of identity. Now, this is predominantly the problem in America today, where we witness multiculturalism at its finest. Author Chris Jammy puts it best when she states that American culture is a place where flattery is called love, propaganda is called news, gossip is called knowledge, and singing is called auto-tune. In a nation so focused on self-expression, we rarely create selves that are actually worth expressing. So, for a second, let's be real and focus on what is truly at stake. We stop paying attention to these quickly dissolving cultures. In the village of Tyee on the Ivory Coast, 3 brothers from a prosperous family are struggling to balance careers in the modern economy with the preservation of their tribe's medicinal practices. Their mother is the esteemed healer of the tribe, but she is growing old and has not yet been able to pass on these practices. So, the first brother, curious about the medicine she uses, states that he is too afraid to ask her. And the second brother even goes into the forest with her, but hesitates to ask for fear of the power of her medicines. And finally, the third brother, pursuing a successful engineering career, simply assumes that the other 2 brothers will just acquire her knowledge. And with each passing year, it seems less and less likely that these practices will be passed on. Michael Baum, director in New York at the Institute of Economic Botany, states that only 2,000 of the Earth's 250,000 plants have been thoroughly studied by Western scientists. Yet over 40,000 of those yield promising chemicals towards the cure of infectious diseases. Yet we are losing something of value too late to save it. Dacă am învățat ceva în viața asta, e că trebuie să avem speranță. If I have learned anything in this life, that we have to have hope. Currently, the National Cancer Institute has teamed up with shamans in Latin America and have already discovered over 5,000 plants that yield promising chemicals towards the cure of cancer and AIDS, maybe someday even Ebola. And what's even better is that those tribes or villages that donate the medicines will get part of the profit if the medicines do yield to be promising. And that's all because the tribe or the village decided to preserve the one thing that was unique to them. And you guys can do the same by looking back on your cultural roots and following your family tree. T is for traditions. What's something your family used to do that you don't do anymore? See if you can reinstate this in your daily lives. R is for redefining your culture. What does that word mean to you if not simply a little grandmother in a crowded kitchen cooking home-cooked meals? E is for evaluate your ancestors. Don't be afraid to do research on your cultural background, and especially always ask your family questions. And finally, E, evolve into this new self that respects other people's cultures, while at the same time making sure you honor and understand your own. Eu, personal, mi frică că o să pierd limba. My personal biggest fear in this world is that I will lose my language. And I admit I used Google to translate some of those sentences. But I am still willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to this one thing that I feel makes me kind of unique. The former Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan, puts it best when she states that you can love who you are without hating what and whom you are not. Nu poți să știi unde mergi până când știi unde ai fost. You can't know where you're going until you know where you've been. Thank you.
Our next alumni VIP, she'll be back. So, thank you, Christina. We would like to make an announcement tonight before I turn it back over to Mr. Good, and that is to obviously our guests and to the community out there listening. You know, on Saturday, our CFB students and staff and our school board administration will participate in our annual Dr. Martin Luther King Parade. And if you haven't been to this parade or you haven't been to the celebration on Saturday, I would encourage you to come out. The weather's supposed to be beautiful, which we are fortunate because in the past we've had some, well, less than fortunate weather, let's just say. But this Saturday is forecast to be a beautiful day for a great celebration. And the other thing I want you to know about that, and we'd like for you to know about it, is that that wouldn't happen without the efforts of Willie and Juanita Rainwater and the friends and family of Christ Community Church and the people that for the past many, many years have chosen to come together and bring this community together and celebrate a special day that talks about accepting diversity in this community and embracing it. And so if you get a chance, please come out and watch our students and all the other things that will be in the parade that celebrate this great community and such a great man to help bring us together as a great nation. So at this time, Mr. Good, we are finished with our recognitions and our announcements.
Very good. Thank you very much. If I may, I have a few comments to make. To our VIPs especially, it's always a pleasure that we as board members have the opportunity to say thank you to you who make a difference in the lives of all of our students. And it's always wonderful to be able to reflect upon the different personalities and qualities that you bring to our school district. For those of you who believed in Carrollton Farmers Branch and you came back, and that's especially indicative tonight with so many of you. And it speaks volumes about your teachers when you were students in CFB ISD, and probably we recognized some of them at some time in years past. So we are so thankful of your belief in what we do in Carrollton Farmers Branch. But to all of our educators and administrators, we know that you go beyond what is expected of you. And we accept that and realize, being in a legislative session, we have no idea what the outcome may be, but the one thing we do know is that you, our educators and administrators, will continue to make a difference in the lives of all of our students. So I am so thankful on behalf of the board to be able to congratulate you on, shall I say, a job well done. But especially, we also now have the opportunity to reflect upon the non-educator, but alumni of our school district and the success that they've had. So for Judge Birmingham, we are honored that you gave us the opportunity to say thank you for your successes, and hopefully we can say we had a small part in that in some way. And also to Christina, I see you back there, Christina. I do thank you for your comments, and especially for our understanding of the challenges, the struggles, and the opportunity that go along with assimilation. And so hopefully you can remind us when we fail at that and give us a little bit of guidance and maybe how we can continue to ensure that we bring all students, let me emphasize that, all students into this culture of public education. So thank you all for being here. We're going to take a short recess.
Mr. Good, before you do that, we
Yes,
have
sir.
one other little special
Oh.
thing for the board tonight,
Okay.
and we have some people back there in the back, I believe, that are gonna come bring something. The culinary arts students, I
I
believe.
see some walking by. I don't know where they're going.
Are they coming? It's for later? Okay, so we can take a break and then they're going to come back later? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
We are going to
Sorry, we're not
take,
going to share, but no.
okay. We are going to take about a 10-minute recess because realizing tomorrow is a school day. So we will recess at 7:47 and then reconvene at 7:57. Before we go on to agenda item 3, if I may, coming up shortly, agenda item 4A is an opportunity for you who are guests if you'd like to speak to the board. The audience for guests is a mechanism the board uses to glean information from our citizens. We realize that many times those topics are not something that we're discussing in our agenda. However, we are eager to hear from you regardless of the topic that it may be. If you would like to speak to the board, you need to fill out the form that's on the table by the double doors when you walked in, and fill that form out and give it to Miss Sharon Scribner. And then at the appropriate time later, I will call you up so you can speak to the board. Now, with that being said, we will now go to agenda item 3, report by superintendent. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board, as you know, we're continuing our series on how people learn and how it impacts the student achievement in CFB. And so tonight, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Warnock to talk to us about how people learn and learning environments.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. This year, our board work study is around how people learn. This book from the National Research Council about the brain-mind experience in school. We believe that in a learning organization, we have symmetry in learning, which means that the learning we expect children to do is replicated at every level of the organization, from the school board, the superintendent, and in the classroom. And so we appreciate the board's investment in learning and continuing the learning journey through our student achievement presentations. Tonight we've invited Joe Gillen, our Executive Director of Counseling, CTE, and Nurses, to share with us about how people learn the learning environment. Ms. Gillen?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Burns, Mr. Good, and esteemed members of the board. As we continue our study of the book, How People Learn, we will focus our attention on the topic of learning environments. The expectations for today's schools have dramatically changed over time. As noted in the book, a fundamental tenet of modern learning theory is that different kinds of learning goals require different approaches to instruction. There are 4 environments that appear to be important given current data about learning. These include learner-centered, knowledge-centered, assessment-centered, and community-centered. Although we will discuss these perspectives individually, the unique components need to be viewed as a system of interconnected parts that support one another. First, learner-centered environments are those in which there is recognition of the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs that students bring into the classroom. Next, knowledge-centered environments help students become knowledgeable by learning ways that lead to understanding and being able to transfer that information to other disciplines. Third, assessment-centered environments provide opportunities for feedback and revision. And finally, community-centered environments connect the classroom, the school, and the community to build collaborative relationships. Each of the 4 areas is independently significant, but when combined, creates the foundation for holistic and effective education. In the past, the focus of education was on the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. There was little interaction between students, and mastery was based on the results of tests. However, model classrooms of today promote project-based learning in which students regularly interact with and learn from one another. Additionally, students are encouraged to utilize creativity and technology to analyze concepts. In short, classrooms of today, which incorporate each of the 4 components into their learning environments, succeed in not only teaching students the mechanics of learning, but also in teaching students how to apply the knowledge they've acquired. Let's look at the 4 pieces of the pie in order to gain a better understanding of each key element. Learner-centered environments are those that pay attention to the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs that students bring in the classroom. Teachers who are learner-centered are sensitive to the cultural differences of their students and actively build upon their unique experiences to further the learning process. A powerful example of the learner-centered environment can be demonstrated through CFB's AVID program. As a reminder, AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. A learning method commonly utilized in the AVID program is the Socratic Seminar. Through this process, participants seek deeper understanding of complex ideas through thoughtful dialogue. A Socratic Seminar fosters active learning as participants explore and evaluate the ideas, issues, and values in a particular text. Now we would like to show you a clip of some AVID students demonstrating the Socratic Seminar method.
So the title of this is Latino School Gap Stubborn. Does anybody see that?
Is a gap, especially here, where our school is predominantly like Hispanic, Latin American. So I see it specifically, but like also like some of us may not be able to see it because we aren't in the same classes as most of these students are.
We realize that other high schools don't necessarily provide the same AP classes that we have here, and other high schools may not even provide like the IB program or the AVID program. So I do see like a huge gap.
I'm not trying to like defend them or anything anyway, but like you see the difference for students who actually want to learn are in like IB and AP classes, and kids who don't actually just want to graduate high school or regular classes.
I'm a little confused here. Is the gap between students who have motivation and heading for the AP classes and IB classes, or is it between Hispanics and white people? That's what I was wanting to point out.
The article points that out, but we are trying to figure out like our situation because we are in this kind of environment. We want to relate it to us a little bit more because we don't see with the article.
The university, I kind of felt like when she moved to Los Amigos, which is pretty much the same percentage of Latinos that there is here at this school, she said she had to lower the standards because they couldn't comprehend what she was teaching at the school where she would teach a majority of it.
Paragraph 5 of the article, where it says just 33% Hispanic students are proficient in reading in 3rd grade. So this obviously starts off young, and compared to the 64% of white students. So there is like a huge difference.
The article implies that Hispanics are getting lower education because of areas that they live, like how people live in more rural areas. Like, do you think it's because of that or because they're speaking two languages?
In the article where Jerry Brown says that he made a funding system that's going to help the budget and the school. So I think that we're not like opening up the gap, but kind of closing it in.
As illustrated in the clip, the Socratic Seminar learning strategy allows students to draw upon their own unique perspectives while thinking critically and learning from one another. Learner-centered environments such as these empower students to draw upon their current knowledge as a foundation for further learning. The second piece of our learning environment pie is the knowledge-centered environment. Students in this environment become knowledgeable by learning ways that lead to understanding and being able to transfer that information to other applications. Teachers first take into account what knowledge the students already possess before presenting new information so that connections and relationships can be built. A key tenet of this approach involves the process of progressive formalization. It begins by having students use their own words, pictures, or diagrams to describe mathematical situations to organize their own knowledge and work and to explain their strategies. Let's now watch some edu-creations by students from McCamey Elementary, which demonstrate this concept. As you will see in the clips, McCamey students not only perform traditional mathematical equations, but are also able to articulate their problem-solving process, which shows a deeper understanding. In the first clip, a second grade student will explain the process of how to add place value. The second clip will feature a fifth grade student's thought process in adding fractions.
Here's my problem. Kira had 27 pennies. Then her mom gave her 12 more pennies. How many pennies does she have now? My equation is 27 plus 12 equals question mark. The strategy I'm going to use is adding by place value. So first I need to do 27 plus 12. Now I need to add my tens. I know that 20 plus 10 makes 30, and I know that 7 plus 2 makes 9. So 30 plus 9 equals 39. And my total is 39.
Okay, and now the fifth grade example.
Problem I'm solving is Daryl's mom gave him a list of chores to do over the weekend. Daryl completed 1/6 of the chores on Saturday and 3/6 of the chores on Sunday afternoon. What portion of the chores has he completed? So I'll start with 1/6. That's what he did on Saturday. And then to find what the portion, I would do 3/6 and add those. And I know that the denominator stays the same, so I would just need to add the numerator to get 4. And then when I look at my answer choices, my answer is not there, so I would have to find the equivalent fraction. So I do 4/6 divided by 2 out of 2, because whatever I do to my denominator, I need to do to my numerator. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that is my answer.
As demonstrated in the videos, students not only learned the logistics of how to compute, but also how to articulate, demonstrate, and apply the process. In these learning environments, the learning goes beyond the basics of computation to a deeper and more applicable level. The third piece of the pie is the assessment-centered learning environment. Assessments serve numerous purposes. They should provide opportunities for feedback and revision. And what is assessed must be congruent with one's learning goals. Assessment-centered environments are no longer solely focused on formative and summative assessments, but also on the valuable role of feedback throughout the learning process. Effective teachers in assessment-centered learning environments examine how students think and learn and how they are able to make real-life connections. Feedback is most valuable when students have the opportunity to use it to revise their thinking as they are working on a unit or project. Opportunities to work collaboratively in groups can also increase the quality of the feedback available to students. Mason Colkhorst, career and technical education teacher at Long Middle School, will now share his insights into the value of assessments and feedback in the learning process.
Pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to start off, I have a little bit of show and tell for you. One coming this way, and I've got one going this way. Students at NF Long engineering program, we do a project that they really enjoy doing, and that's called the Pringles Challenge. And what that is the students are given a rubric at the beginning of the project. And the students, in the rubric, it tells them that they are given a group of materials. They start off with 5 note cards, 4 drinking straws, 12 inches of tape, 2 pieces of paper, 1 envelope, and some Elmer's glue. These materials they use to allow a single Pringles chip to be mailed through the postal system from my house in Allen back here to the school in Carrollton. And they have to make a package that will carry the chip without it being damaged. So they have 3 different packages they have to make. The first 2 are actually practice packages. The first one, they make a package, and we demonstrate the conveyor as if it were on a conveyor belt. So we take the package, put it on a table, slide it across the table, and it drops on the floor, and we do this 3 times. At the end of that, they pick up their package, carefully open it up, and see if the chip lived or if it died. If the chip lived, they get a whole new sack of materials, and they start over and they build a second package. If it didn't, they have to go back right then, reevaluate how they built it, reevaluate what they did, and rebuild it so it does live. The second package is testing whether or not it can stand up to the weight of additional mail that would be on top of it. So to do that, we take the package, once they've built it, and I drop a textbook on it. And when the textbook lands on it, sometimes it lives, sometimes it gets crushed flat. If it gets crushed flat, they have to go back in, look at it, see how they built it, what can they do to rebuild it, and make it so that it will withstand the dropping of a textbook on it. If it does live, they get all new materials, they go back and build a third package, incorporating everything that they've learned as they take it apart. The chip, the package dented in places, things like that. The third package actually goes to my house in Allen, and I take it to the post office, and they laugh at me because I bring these little orange packages in. And I mail it back to the school at Danick Lawn. It takes about 2 or 3 days to get there. When it gets there, we open it up at the beginning of class, and they can see right then if their chip survived the trip or if it didn't survive the trip. About 25% survived the trip. About 25% come back and they're pretty messed up. So in conclusion, what they're learning is that immediate feedback, learning what they need to do in order to be able to progress in the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. Our final piece of the pie is the community-centered learning environment. The community is comprised of the classroom, the school, and the larger community. Each element is a key piece in fostering the success of students and the educational process as a whole. As this diagram illustrates, each of the 3 components are critical in nurturing the success of students and contributing to the complete educational process. The amount of time spent in school is small. Thus, the family unit itself is a key learning environment as it provides resources for learning activities and connections to the larger community. In addition, family involvement in school is important. Establishing positive and open lines of communication coupled with opportunities for participation in school events provides family members with a powerful system for supporting children's learning. In CFB, we actively seek and welcome family participation through campus family nights, parent-teacher conferences, PTA meetings, and numerous volunteer opportunities. Community involvement also plays a large piece in community-centered learning environments. The formation of positive relationships with local community members results in bringing professional knowledge and resources to students and staff. In CFB, we recognize and highly value the contributions of our community members. Business professionals are regularly utilized to serve in numerous capacities, whether serving as a student mentor, on advisory boards, providing internship opportunities, or serving as volunteers for career fairs and other special events. Our community members bring their knowledge and expertise to further enhance student learning. When the family, the community, and the school work together and welcome each other's contributions, all benefit. As we were informed in the book, How People Learn, The relationship among adults who live in a school has more to do with the character and quality of the school and with the accomplishments of the students than any other factor. Indeed, it is truly all about the relationships. The following slides are just a few examples of the community-centered learning environments offered by CFB. The 5th grade career fair, guest speakers, Reach for the Stars, Career and Technical Education Family Night, and Avid Family Nights. In closing, while each of the 4 learning environments is important individually, greater outcomes are achieved when the pieces of the pie are combined to create a whole. We will continue to strive not only to make sure students possess the basic skills needed for post-secondary success, but also have the critical thinking skills which allow them to apply knowledge in a multitude of avenues. We want to thank our CFB staff, parents, and community members for all coming together to be a piece of the pie. We now would like to present you with a special treat from our CFB Culinary Arts students. So a little music to help with that. And our teacher. Okay, that was the culinary treat, Dr. Burns. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Burns, that concludes our presentation for this evening on the learning environment.
Oh,
fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Tonight.
Ms. Klein.
I was just wondering which assessment is the pizza? At a, or would that be the knowledge? No.
Yeah, I think a little of all 4 parts.
All 4 parts.
Yes.
We have about 2 minute recess.
I just got to suggest that Ms. Yellen should do all of these
Yeah.
board meetings.
Very good. Board members, are there any questions? Yes, sir.
A question. Ms. Gillen, you talked about that the culture, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, that there's a transition taking place in education, moving away from the traditional assessments which showed mastery in tests and pretty much only tests. What's it moving to, and how does that fit with what we're doing in the great state of Texas with the old style test environment and holding that over kids' heads?
Right, that's a great question. And I think what I was referring to is in the classroom, we want students to get immediate feedback so that they know at the time of their assessment that what they need to improve on and what that learning involves. I think that the state tests are tests that we don't really have control of, and of course we want our students to be successful, so we're going to make sure that they are prepared for those tests. But within the classroom, for our students to be able to get that feedback and work together, talk, and really feel that they're getting immediate feedback as opposed to maybe several days later a paper that's returned to them and with lots of scratching and ink marks, but yet not really understanding what that's about. So that immediate feedback is what we're moving toward.
Mr. Shackman, I would add too that we believe in CFB in a balanced assessment approach, which is maybe a bit of a disconnect from an abundance of standardized testing, which we see kind of nationally. But we believe that in having a balanced assessment approach through project-based assessments, through written assessment, through presentation, collaboration, that's really where we see deep learning and transfer. And then we use standardized assessments as a measure of accountability and a mark of progress, but it's not the only indicator of student progress.
I think that well, my bias is that you're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Gillen, thank you very much, especially providing the examples of actual implementation so we can see at the lowest level how practical it is.
Thank you, Mr. Good.
But also, I think the other thing that you bring up is the dynamics, how flexible this is, and yet what you present today, you may be back in 2 years, and it's going to be different once again. So, and I think that's the one thing that many people fail to understand, how dynamic education is in the current generation. So thank you very much.
It's a great district. Thank you.
Very good. At that, we will move on to agenda item 3B, report on accountability. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good, members of the board. And I would like to say, Mr. Shagman, I think you had a great comment to lead into this section, is that accountability shouldn't, in this form, be the be-all, end-all to see how our kids are doing. And so I appreciate so much you saying that, because the accountability does measure something, but it doesn't measure everything about student performance and student growth and learning. But in Texas, accountability is important, and we are judged on it. We are talked about regarding our accountability rating, and sometimes in the media it's a good thing, sometimes it's not such a good thing. But our focus on achievement and our focus on making sure that the kids are successful in many, many forms of assessment is what we try to do. And so this is just one measure. We're certainly proud of our results, but we don't mean to say in any way that it's the everything. But it is one piece of showing and measuring how well we're doing and reaching our goal of student achievement. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Warnock for more information regarding our report on accountability.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. The Texas Education Agency in December released what is known as the TAPER report, the Texas Academic Performance Report, which has replaced what was formerly our AEIS reports. That might be more familiar language. So to give us an update on the TAPER report, and also following the TAPER report, we will have a public hearing on those results as required by statute. We invite Ms. Patty Parker, our Director of Assessment and Accountability, to share the news about CFB's accountability data.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Burns, Mr. Good, school board members, and other guests. Tonight I am providing an update on the 2014 State Accountability Report and results from the recent 2014 December end-of-course tests that were most recently taken by our students at high school. Last year, the Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as TAPER, replaced AEIS. These reports include information initially provided when the ratings were released back in August, but in addition, they contain cumulative information on student performance across all subjects at the acceleration instructional grade levels, within post-secondary areas, as well as district and campus profiles. After this meeting, a copy of the 2013-14 TAPER will be published on our district's website to meet the state's notification requirements. In October, we spent a little bit of time taking a broad brush approach and overview of the district and campus student performances in the state's accountability system. Carrollton Farmers Branch earned MET standard rating based on index scores in 4 areas. Index 1 acts as a snapshot of how many students pass the STAR test. Index 2 measures year-to-year student growth by subject and student groups. Index 3 tracks advanced academic achievement of economically disadvantaged students and the 2 low-performing groups based on 2 years of performance. Index 4 includes factors that provide students with a foundation for success in college, the workforce, job training programs, or the military. Now, Index 1 is calculated at the all-student level. This year's target was set at 55, and our district scored 78. Student achievement is the only index with the fewest revisions in how the score was calculated this year. Changes included a new target score rising from 50 to 55, fewer end-of-course tests being administered as a result of House Bill 5, and the inclusion of test results for more students served in our bilingual and English language learner programs. Index 2 focuses upon student growth from one assessment year to the next. All student ethnic groups are used in this index. The target was set at 16. Our district scored a 41. Student progress went through some slight revisions this past year. It looked only at reading and math, but it also included results from the modified and alternate versions of the STAR test. Index 3 addresses closing the achievement gap for traditionally disadvantaged groups. The target was set at 28. District, we scored a 41. This index went through a major revision in how the scores were calculated. In 2014, we outpaced the state by 3% and the region by 2% in closing the achievement gap. Along with economically disadvantaged students, African American and Hispanic student performance will continue to be included in this index for our district. Index 4 highlights the importance of earning a high school diploma. The target was set at 57, and our district earned a 71. Post-secondary readiness also went through major revisions and cannot be compared to the previous year's index scores. It applied to all campuses in 2014 and placed an increased emphasis on the role of elementary and middle schools in preparing students for high school.
Yes, Mr. Short?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, which is true most of the time. But what's the difference between a 78 and a 77 on Index 1? Is it getting one more correct answer? Is it getting 100 more correct answers? Or what does that signify?
Index 1 is probably the most simplest one to look at in that 78, the 78 is our students passed 78% of the tests that were taken in Carrollton Farmers Branch. For the state of Texas, students in the state of Texas on average passed 77% of the tests that were given during that year.
Who set the target of 55?
The target was set after all assessments were given through the state, through the commissioner and the state board.
So the target was just a little more than half being passed.
That's correct, sir. Last year it was.
Great state of Texas.
Right. Last year it was set at 50%, and this year it was set at 55%.
Oh, wow, we're really raising the bar.
It's good to know here is that when the state has a new test revision coming in and they kind of up the standards, they will typically set the target score a little bit lower at first.
I got that.
Yeah. So it does sound low, but we want the audience to know it is a very difficult test because this board took earlier in a work study. It's much more difficult, and so they adjust that target a little bit for that. It's a little disconnect in what we believe is, okay, well, is that mastery or not? Well, you could argue both sides of it, but that is why they set the score lower than typical because of it being a new test. So.
And it is a percent of tests passed.
Say that one more time.
It is a percent of the tests that were passed by students in the state of Texas. So 78% of the tests were passed by students in Carrollton Farmers Branch. And for the state of Texas, 77%.
Which test?
It's a combination of all tests and all given to all students.
TESTS. Tests, plural.
Yes, sir.
Tests.
Yes.
So if it were a third grader, it would include both the tests that a third grade student would take for STAR.
Okay, all right.
So the state would set that number thinking, we think it's a reasonable number for 55% of the students to pass all the tests taken.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you say that 100% is what's reasonable?
Well, I think you would say that with the exception of you haven't given that test yet. I mean, so you really don't know how good a test it is in measuring really what the curriculum is.
Okay,
and so
well,
there's some disconnects in it.
Okay, I'm going to, how to win friends and influence people, okay? Are we satisfied with 78?
Oh.
Because I know one of us, probably 7 of us aren't.
Yeah, oh, no way, no, yeah. I mean, whatever they set is the standard, whatever test they give us, we go after 100% always. I mean, you don't ever shoot the bar lower. But as you saw and you took the test, it is a difficult test. And so we've got a lot of work to do to get there, but we don't lower the target just because it's difficult.
Okay. Would you remind me, when it comes time to set our goals for the next time we do that we bring this up as a target for the superintendent to achieve?
Mr. Shore, I want to just interject here.
And maybe we shouldn't have given you a 2-year extension.
I do want to interject that the 78%, it is for all students, all tests, and for the first time this past year included
Special ed?
Well, all students who are served with special education, but also all of our language learning students that had previously been exempted.
That's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty impressive.
I also want to add that at this point, when we look at our seniors, our cohort class of 2015, that at this point we are still crunching some numbers, but we are roughly estimating we have 95% of our seniors who over time have now reached passing all of their tests for graduation.
That's closer to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And I applaud you.
That too. So we know that learning takes time, and so some of our students need additional support to get to that mark. But when we look at our senior cohort class right now, we're sitting at 95% with some additional test administration prior to graduation. So.
Thank you for that information. But still remind me when we set it up.
Graduates enrolled in Texas Institutes of Higher Education are also reported on the TAPER. The information presented here is from our students who graduated as the class of 2012. Now, Texas being Texas means that there's a focus on education within Texas. So as a result, those students identified by the Texas Coordinating Board as not trackable or not found could very well be attending colleges and universities outside of the state. System safeguards are determined from performance and participation rates in Index 1. They have no impact on our rating, but are based on student achievement results in each subject area for all ethnicity groups and students served in special programs. At the district level, we have one area of growth identified: social studies reported in Index 1 for our English language learners. This particular safeguard, it also needs to be addressed at the regional and state level. Recall that the target score for Index 1 is 55% for each subject area and student group, and we're very close to meeting that goal in this area. Due to the changes made by the state, this year we have only one index that provides a glimpse of change in student performance over time. Index 1 is not indicative of change across the whole system, but it does give us information that illustrates improvement. Again, the challenge for next year will be a recalculation of how each index score is going to be reported in 2015. Therefore, while not a constant, we will continue to use student achievement to monitor our progress. Looking now to student performance on the most recent administration of state testing, the results shown here will directly impact our Index 1 scores for student achievement in this year's 2015 State Accountability Report. Our retesters made remarkable gains on the standard version of the STAR end-of-course test taken in December. With each retest administration, more students are meeting the state's testing requirement prior to graduation. Historically, we have recaptured nearly a quarter to a half of students needing to retest. But last month, even more students were successful across all subject areas. Even though a majority of the students who were assessed in December were retesters, There were also first-time test takers and students taking the STAR-L test, which provides linguistic accommodations for our English language students. In a comparison of student performance from last year to this year, collectively, our students, first-time test takers as well as those retesting, show improvement in all tested subject areas with 1 semester of intervention. We believe that this can be attributed to additional support at the district and campus levels, specifically in the area of English. The results from December's end-of-course test were released to the districts last week. They have not been released to the public yet, and as a result, state and regional comparisons are not currently available. This concludes my report, and now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Georgianne Warnock.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. We would be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Board members, questions? One more time. Hearing none, seeing none. Thank you very much for the presentation on accountability. At this time, we will stay on this topic because we are in requirement to hold a public hearing. So at this time, we will open a public hearing regarding accountability at 8:39 p.m. If there's anyone who would like to address the board regarding this topic, this is your opportunity at this time. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding accountability? Hearing none, seeing none, this open public meeting is closed at 8:40 p.m. and we will continue with our agenda. And we will now move on to board operations. Before I go into this, I will remind our audience, if anyone would like to speak to the board during the portion Audience for Guests, please fill out the form as indicated, give it to Ms. Scrivener. You will be given 3 minutes to speak, and Mr. Shore is our timekeeper. He will let you know when time has expired. Please remember, if it's not a topic that we currently have on our agenda, the board may not discuss this. Ms. Scrivener, are there any Audience for Guests? Thank you. I want to see. I have 2. Dr. Rivera, if you would, please come to the stand over there, and please state your name, where you live, and then please start your presentation.
All right, thank you. I'm Dr. Richard Rivera. I'm a pediatrician. I'm also the medical consultant for the Carrollton Farmers Branch School District. I've been this for about 20 years, and this is, I guess, my first time I need to come here. Cameron Espinoza was a middle school athlete in Corpus Christi, Texas, who during a halftime break took a break on the football field and was stung by fire ants. Unknown to him, his family, or anyone, he had an allergic reaction. He went to anaphylaxis, and he died the next day. Had he had on that field a source of adrenaline in the form of a immediate release device, such as an EpiPen or an Auvi-Q, his life probably could have been spared. The company that makes the EpiPen has and since 1912, a program called EpiPens for Schools, which at no charge will supply an EpiPen set for every school in the district. I felt it was medically necessary and important, so on my own, I wrote a prescription. I obtained an EpiPen for every school in our district, every elementary, middle school, and high school. These pens were placed, or in the process of being placed, when I received a letter from the attorneys stating for me to cease and desist, and I received all the pens back. I have about a little over $7,000 worth of medicine in my office right now. It seems I did not come before you, and so I apologize for that. So I want to inform the board that This type of device is pretty much in all of our schools. All of our nurses have them for children who have known allergies. This would be a stock supply of EpiPens for children who have unknown allergies. These pens are readily, the information and the use of them, our nurses use them, our coaches use them, our ATs have knowledge of these. For those children who have known allergies to food or insect bites or stings. I am asking the board to reconsider their decision of last year and allow me to replace these EpiPens back in the schools, back in the nurse's office, back in the athletic trainer's ability to have them available to our students if and when they have an allergic or an anaphylactic reaction. And that kind of process, seconds count, not minutes, but seconds. So as a father, as a physician, as a member of this board, you need to ask yourself, if your son was Cameron Espinoza, would you want your district, your nurse, your coach, your athletic trainer to have access to one of these medications and hopefully save his life? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. Dr. Burns, if I may, have you get with Dr. Rivera regarding this?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's not on the agenda. The board can't comment on it. I will. Certainly, since it's has some legal ramifications, we will need to give it to our council, and they advise us, so we will bring that back up and see what direction
I
they
would
can
be
give
more
us.
than happy to come back and answer any questions or so and speak with anyone who I need to. In the past, if I still have time, they would give a set of these to every school after they were expired, and do expire kind of quickly. You could purchase them at half the price of the regular price. As of November of last year, they will now supply a completely free set yearly, calendar year. So we can get another set. These expire in May of this year. I can get a whole nother set for next year and every year thereafter at no charge. I had y'all a packet of some information. Right now, all the states except for 3 have laws that allow school districts to have stock supplies. 3 states do not: Delaware, Iowa, Texas. There is currently a legislation going before the state, referred to as the Cameron Espinoza Act, to try to impose or to allow districts to have a stock supply of these medications.
Yeah. And Dr. Rivera, we want to thank you for all of your help for us for the last 20 years. So we appreciate you so much for what you have done for our district and our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next person for the consent agenda is Henry Billingsley. Mr. Billingsley, you might want to wait because I believe you want to talk on a topic regarding agenda item 4E. And I will ask you to come up and speak when we get to that in just a couple of minutes. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 4B, is our consent agenda. Our consent agenda is a mechanism whereby the board can take action in a single vote on a number of items of a routine nature that come before the board. Prior to any action, though, taken on this consent agenda, the board members have had an opportunity to request that items may be withdrawn for individual clarification or discussion. And at this time, board members, are there any items on the consent agenda you would like to pull? Hearing none. Administration.
Mr. Goode, administration would like to suggest we pull item number 7 and item 8, just to add a little information for the general public about those items.
Very good. With that, board members, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of agenda item 4B7 and 4B8? Mr. Shore.
Mr. Goode, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of items 4B7 and 4B8.
Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Shackman. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4B7. Mr. Hyde, back to you.
Mr. Goode, members of the board, this item relates to the refunding of certain district bonds, essentially refinancing some debt. I've asked Mr. Tillman, our Chief Financial Officer, to give you a brief explanation.
The district currently has the opportunity to reduce our future debt service payments by refunding our 2006 series outstanding bonds. We are requesting that we authorize the parameter bond order, which actually establishes pricing officers for the district that can act on behalf of the district in the event that all of the parameters are met within the bond order. The board has directed and utilized this process in the past. In fact, since 2010, there has been 4 refundings handled in this manner that resulted in a savings in future debt service payment reductions of $17.3 million over the life of those bonds. This refunding, using the current market rates for bonds, would save approximately $3.3 million over the next 16 years through the refunding. This would be a little over $212,000 a year less the district would be required to pay out in debt service payments.
And if I could add, our taxpayers would pay out less in debt service payments.
Very good. Board members, any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Shore.
Move that we approve consent agenda item 47.
Do I have a second?
If I may.
Ms. Klein.
We have some specific language.
There is some verbiage specific to that with your,
go for it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because of legalities here, our attorneys have given us the pieces. The attorney who jumped, no. Mr. Shore, Mr. Good, I move to adopt the order authorizing issuance of Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refunding Bonds, Series 2015, establishing parameters for the sale and issuance of such bonds and delegating certain matters to authorized officials of the district.
Very good. I have a
thought I
motion.
said that.
Do I have a second?
Just like that.
Ms. Klein. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Hyde, agenda item 4B8.
Yes, sir, Mr. Good. Item number 8 is a somewhat related item. This is the initializing a contract with Stantec Architects to do the design work for a expansion and remodel of portions of Carrollton Elementary School. Related in that these bonds that we're refunding, the debt that's been issued is goes to finance this project. I wanted to point out to the board and to the community, these are bonds that were authorized way back in 2003. The district has been very judicious and actually waited on the market and waited on conditions to be appropriate. So we haven't gone more rapidly than the market would allow. And we believe we've gotten some very good value out of those bonds that the community authorized back in 2003, and we're continuing to get value out of that. And just across the street, some of the older portions of that building will be improved. So we recommend to this board that we authorize us to engage Stantec Architects to begin this project.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Shore.
Is there any magic language to approve this?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion? Mr. Shore.
Move that we approve consent agenda item 4B8.
And Mr. Matthews made second, I believe. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4C, consider approval of the district's comprehensive annual financial report for the period ending August 31st, 2014. Dr. Burns?
Yes, I believe, Mr. Hart, you have a few comments to make before you turn it over to the...
Yes, sir.
Make that recommendation.
Briefly, this concludes our 2014 fiscal year. You know, our year ends in August 31st of last year. Our school year is over the prior year. All the things were finished. We closed our books, and through the last few months, we've been going through the audit process and the closing. Tonight, we bring to you the comprehensive annual financial report representing the results of financial operations for that 2014 year. That's the book. There's a hard copy provided to the board. There's the electronic copy available to the board and community and anybody who'd like to see it on our website. The primary points to make related to this report is that it was a good report. The magic language, as Mr. Shore likes to use, is it received an unmodified opinion. What an unmodified opinion means is that the auditors said they didn't find anything that they thought was too wrong with how we presented our financial statements, and essentially they present fairly the results of our operations. They tell the story of our finances. And the story of our finances in a nutshell is that in 2014, this district spent $3.9 million more than it brought in. Not a big surprise. In fact, we're quite proud of that $3.9 million deficit because we expected it to be significantly higher than that. With what's happening with state finance and the cost of operations, we expected our deficit in 2014 to be significantly higher than that. And the very good news is that the district, even with that $3.9 million deficit, is still in very sound, stable financial condition. We have over $78 million in our reserves. Allows the district some flexibility in future decision-making. And as we've discussed with the audit committee before this meeting, that doesn't mean the future is any easier. It just means we're starting from a very stable point. And now the board has very difficult decisions to make about how it spends its money in the future. We have presented this information to the audit committee, and we request the audit committee to consider this.
Board members, any questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Shore.
The audit committee had the opportunity to meet with the auditors earlier this evening, okay? And Mr. Hyatt is a little bit too humble, okay? Earlier this evening, we got to observe some of the excellence of the instructors that serve on the front lines of what we do. The auditors essentially said the same thing about our financial people. We used to use the term an unqualified opinion, but because the auditors want to figure out a way to make more money, they change it to unmodified to confuse people, and so we received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest rating that can be achieved. And the auditors had very, not surprisingly, very complimentary things to say about our financial people. At the conclusion of that meeting, the audit committee voted unanimously to recommend to this body that we accept the CAFR.
Very good. Board members, I have, I believe, a motion from Mr. Shore coming from the committee to accept the
CAFR.
Oh, are there any questions? Being that there are no questions, that does not require a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We will now move on to consent agenda item 4D. Consider all matters related to option exchange agreement pertaining to the parcels of property located within the Farmers Branch Tax Increment Finance Zone Number 1. Dr. Burns?
Mr. Good, members of the board, as you recall, we had this on the agenda in December. We had some discussion, obviously, and then we have it back on the, as directed, back on the agenda for tonight. So I'll turn over to Mr. Hyatt for any comments regarding this and kind of let you know the direction from this point on.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Mr. Good, members of the board, since this was on the agenda last board meeting, the board is marginally familiar with the issue, but in brief for the public, the district has an option contract on a parcel of land in Farmers Branch, Texas. It's actually in an area known as Mercer Crossing. That option contract was related to the initializing a tax increment finance zone several years ago. And it is an option contract that would allow the district the opportunity to buy that piece of land if and when the board or the district felt like that was a piece of property we wanted to buy. The board at that time wanted to have an emergency provision that would make sure that there was a piece of land that was available in that development using the TIF resources to buy it if and when they wanted to exercise that right. We've been approached by a corporation that wishes to request us to trade that option contract for a separate piece of land. Staff's recommendation to the board is that the board can do as it wishes. There is no, in my opinion, no negative impact to that trade. There is an indirect benefit to the district in that it allows the developer to go ahead and proceed with the project on the site that they're currently attempting to develop. The ultimate development of that, I believe, is somewhere in the ballpark of $40 million in that development, which would result in future tax revenues. However, this transaction between swapping the option contract itself has no financial gain related to it. I believe Mr. Billingsley's here to address that issue, and if you'd like to hear him point out, that is just essentially the elements of the request.
Mr. Billingsley, if you like, please go over to the microphone and state who you are, who you represent, and then okay. Okay, we'll get them.
My name is Henry Billingsley. I'm with Billingsley Company. We're a real estate development company that builds, manages, and owns suburban office buildings, apartments, and warehouses, and some retail around Dallas. About 2 years ago, we bought 245 acres in Mercer Crossing. We bought about 135 acres that is bordered by Stemmons on the east and LBJ on the south. Then you get to the railroad track. The other side of the railroad track is in Farmers Branch. Part of the land on the east is in Farmers Branch, parts in Dallas. On the west side of the north-south railroad track, which will show up on the drawing that you all have, we have 106 acres. On that, now this is all part of Mercer Crossing, which is about a 1,200-acre development that, in our opinion, has been ready for development for about 15 years, and nothing has happened. We bought the property 2 years ago. We have a building that will be completed in April of this year, 175,000 square foot, 3-story office building that Monotronics is going to be the tenant in. That should throw off tax to the Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD of $430,000 a year. And that'll start this next year. The building will be completed. They'll move in. We've had the property 2 years. That building's done. Across the street from that, we are proposing to build 499 units of apartments. It's been approved by Farmers Branch. They're totally on board with it, the city. That should have a value of $59,880,000 and should generate $780,416 to the school district starting within 2 years, because it'll take 1.5 years to build it. But you'll start getting the money then. Right now, that property's in ag. It's generating nothing. The second phase of that project, which we would start as soon as the first phase was done, would be 380 units. That would be a value of $45 million and would generate to the school district $594,000 per year. So I think the real thing here is, right now you're getting nothing from ag. You can end up getting almost $1.5 million per year starting in 1 year or 1.5 years rather than waiting long term. So the development does have an immediate impact of significant dollars for the school district. Now, on the 2 handouts I handed you, one of them had what the valuations and what the tax generation would be. The other one shows the current property that you have an option to buy. Now, this was something done long before we came on the scene when the TIF was put in place by Gene Phillips Company. Your option is to buy a tract of land at fair market value, and it goes for another 3 years, the same length as the TIF. At fair market, you can buy my house at fair market. This isn't an option to buy it substantially below or at yesterday's price. This is an option to buy at fair market. The tract of land is 12 acres. The future of Sinlac Road will go through that property, giving you an unusable piece on the west, and then the rest could be usable. That's shown on the diagram that you all have. So you'll have an unusable part. There is also a high-pressure gas line that goes through this tract that I am sure no one would want to build a school on with a high-pressure gas line going through. You can't even build on top of them. You can't park on top of them. You can't pave on top of it. But you don't even want to be near it because it's a high-pressure gas line. If it blew up, it would kill everybody in a large area. We're proposing to take that tract and trade you your option on another tract that's about 200 yards away. It does not have, it is not close to the high-pressure gas line at all. It does not have a road dissecting it, but would have a road on the top of it, adjacent to it, but not going through it. So we think that it is a superior piece of land in the same immediate neighborhood with the same option for the same period of time. And if you do that, then you get the benefit of we will develop the other track, and it will start generating funds for the school district. Now, as I understand it, on the TIF, 35% of the money that would normally come to you all in school taxes goes into the TIF, but 65% goes to you people right now. So this would start generating real dollars, significant dollars for the school district as soon as these buildings are up. And we're ready to go ahead and start. We've already got the office building done, which is adjacent to the property we're talking about, and this would be next to it. So I think you get a superior piece of land and get tax generation off of that tract of land starting immediately. And I think as an aside to the whole thing, if you look at the Mercer Crossing area with PD 88 zoning, it is going to be all basically office buildings, warehouses, and one-bedroom apartments. There are going to be no students there. So, I mean, if you were going to build a new school, you would be far better off to build it, in my opinion, closer to where students live, so they're close to where they're going to school. And you could probably buy property in a normal residential area for $2.50 to $3 a foot, because as a school, you can build on any property. You don't have to have a special zoning. Cities allow schools any place. The zoning that we have, PD 88, if you were going to buy the property at fair market with the ability to do multifamily on it, would probably be $10 to $12 a foot. So as a practical matter, if you're going to build a school, it'll probably be closer to where the students are. It will probably cost you $2 to $3 a foot instead of $10 to $12 a foot. And if you wanted to build one in this area, we're giving you, I think, a safer piece of property in the same immediate area without the high-pressure gas line. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Okay. Board members, questions at this time? Mr. Short.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Billingsley, thank you for the information.
Yep.
And I'm going to try and lock you into something, so at least I'm letting you know that in the beginning. If the taxing authority appraises the buildings that you build at amounts higher than you're telling us they'd be worth, would you agree that you would not ask the taxing authority to value the property at anything less than what you've told us tonight they'd be worth?
The numbers that I've given you here are cost numbers. And so I'm assuming that they'll be valued initially at our cost numbers. But we own probably 5 million square feet of office space in town and 8 or 10 million square feet of industrial space and 5,000 units of apartments. And I'll tell you, every year I'm down at the tax appraisal district fighting valuations.
And
now,
I don't blame you.
Sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. On my own personal house, I'm 0 for 12. I mean, I don't know why I keep going back. But we go down and talk with them on valuation, not on all the properties, but I'd say every year I go down on probably about 25–30% of our properties.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Louis Brandeis, I think, is quoted as saying that everybody has a constitutional right to pay as small amount of taxes as possible.
Yeah.
But the reason I posed my question to you is because one of the reasons you're suggesting we do this is the amount of money that may be generated in taxes.
Yes.
And that's resonating to some extent with me.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that after we take whatever action we take, whatever it is, that a year from now, somebody could be before the Greater Dallas Appraisal District and saying, the property is not worth $49 million, it's worth 49 cents.
Oh.
And I'm picking an extreme number, obviously.
I can assure you that I think this number on the units that we're going to build in Phase 1, 499 units, $59,800,000, you know, that's cost, so I'll bet that will be in that neighborhood. I can assure you I won't be down there asking for less than $55 million, you know. So if you get a valuation of $55 million, you'll still get $780,000 or $750,000.
Well,
and that's better than ag,
Okay.
which is a ham sandwich.
Yeah. And all I'm asking is that you wouldn't ask for a value that's lower than you're representing to us tonight.
That's fine. That's fine. On the year of completion or whenever, if it's this year or next year. I'll even do it the 2 years, because it'll take us a year and a half to build it. The first year, they're not going to have a valuation this high. This is the value at completion. But at completion that year, we won't ask for less than that number.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions?
Board members, any other questions? Mr. Billingsley, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Board members, this is an action item. And as stated, this is to discuss and consider all matters related to the correction. I'm reading off the bottom of the wrong page. Consider all matters related to option exchange agreement pertaining to the parcel of property located within the Farmers Branch Tax Increment Finance Zone Number 1. What is your pleasure? Oh, good point. If you prefer, we do have the option that this could go to closed session. Would you prefer, rather than take an action at this time, go to closed session and to discuss this item?
Relative to real estate, I think it makes sense for us to meet in closed session. It may not take a long time, but that seems to be a prudent course of action for us to review all options.
Okay, if that's the case, then we will defer this to closed session. We do have one other matter to discuss, an action item we need to take care of, and then we will go into closed session. And that is agenda item 4E, which is discuss and consider all matters related to intra-district transfers. Mr. Short.
I think it's important for Mr. Billingsley to understand, we cannot take any action in closed session. We can discuss things, but any action we take will occur right out here in this motion.
Okay, very good. I appreciate you clarified that to Mr. Billingsley. But at this time, we still have one agenda item that we need to address, and that's agenda item 4E, which is discuss and consider all matters related to intra-district transfers, policy FDB local. So we will go to that at this time. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board, as you recall, this item was also on the agenda in December. We had some good discussion about it and gathered some information about it, and took the direction that we really wanted to explore this as the board's will, what was their intent with this. And so we have asked council to review this, to give you the most pertinent, most relevant information regarding all of the aspects of this policy. And you can also do that consultation with our attorney in closed session as well, before you have to take any action, or no action in this case, but giving us direction for future meetings regarding this policy. So if you'd like to discuss now, but we do have that listed under close, and we do have our attorney here to provide you all the information you need to be aware of in order to kind of give us direction and to look at that policy.
Board members, is there any discussion at this time, or do you prefer to take this into closed session also? Okay.
Well, this is going to surprise people when I just said. I think with if the lawyer is just going to tell us policy matters, I think it may be beneficial for the public to hear that as well. We're not going to be discussing any particular students. We're not going to be discussing we can discuss what action we want to take in closed session, can't we? We can't act in closed session, but we can discuss it in closed session.
Correct. You can't determine by individual what action you might take.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to unduly lengthen the evening, but I'm struggling to know why what the lawyer's going to tell us when we're not talking about a particular lawsuit, it's just general policy, why we wouldn't want the world to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I think I can say this since we'll be speaking to an attorney down the end, because that's what the attorney wanted us to do. So
what?
So they're here. Alex is here. We tend to follow our counsel's advice when they tell us things. They tell us things. We like to follow their advice. They seem to.
Maybe he's got a reason it should be in closed session.
Yeah, so we'll let Alex address that question from Mr. Shore regarding whether or not it would be prudent to go into closed session.
Yes, sir. I mean, the rationale for closed session is because I'm legal counsel for the board, and I'm providing the board with legal counsel, so that would need to be done in closed session.
But we're not talking about any lawsuit.
No, I understand that, but because it's just legal counsel generally.
You're just going to tell us what the law is.
I am, but I'm providing legal counsel to the board, so this would otherwise be attorney-client communications.
So you're suggesting it's a privy issue?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You know, we could debate whether it's privileged information or not, okay? Because I think you're just going to spout the law at us. That's what I think you're going to tell us.
Well, yes, yes, sir, that is why the purpose of me being here is to provide the board with legal counsel. It has been requested of me. And that would be privileged communication to the board.
Board members, if you have no disagreement other than Mr. Shore, why don't we hold this for closed session also, and we'll discuss both of these in closed session, if that's acceptable. I don't see a majority that's opposed to that. If that's the case, we will now adjourn this meeting and go into...
You want to do 5, or you want to defer 5, agenda item 5, 2 for afterwards?
Yeah, let's do it afterwards. We will adjourn and go into closed session at this time at 9:14 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good point. I'm sorry. Let's make this according to the law. Agenda item 6. Closed meeting as authorized under Texas Government Code, including but not limited to Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, real property. Let me see. 551.074, personnel matter, 551.076, security devices, 551.082, school children, district employees, disciplinary matter or complaint, 551.0821, personally identifiable student information, and 551.084, investigation. Which one? Oh, item A, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding all matters relating to board policy, FDB local, and B, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072, deliberation regarding open exchange agreement, option exchange agreement pertaining to parcels of property located within the Farmers Branch Tax Increment Finance Zone Number 1. C, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. I think we have covered it. Mr. Short.
This may gum up the works, but I think the matter of the real estate will take less time than hearing regarding the policy. And I would recommend and/or move that we go into closed session regarding the matter of the real estate.
Okay.
Come back and take whatever action we take on that, and then go back in closed session regarding the intra-district transfer issue.
Okay. Board members, if that's acceptable, I'm looking to see if there's anyone opposed. If that's acceptable, what we will do at this time at 9:16 p.m., we will adjourn to go into closed session, and we will specifically address real estate. And then we will come back, vote on that, and then we'll go back into closed session to discuss policy at 9:17. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay here. This meeting is reconvened in open session at 9:36 p.m. Board members, was there anything discussed during closed session that requires board action at this time regarding agenda item 4D. Mr. Shore.
Good. I believe that there is, but I first want to make certain of something. It's my understanding that any legal fees the district incurs with matters pertaining to the TIF, that money in the TIF can be used to pay those legal fees.
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
So that whatever legal fees we've incurred don't come out of the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, Mr. Good, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Good, I move that we approve the request that the option that we currently have on approximately 12 acres in the Mercer Crossing area that currently exists, that's the option currently exists, that we agree with the landholder to swap that option and remove it from the land it's currently covering and move it to the 9 acres plus or minus, as reflected on deed sketch exhibit that was presented to us by Mr. Billingsley earlier this evening. And while that's my motion, I also want to be on record that I'm making that motion in part based upon the representations that were made earlier this evening by Mr. Billingsley.
Very good. I have a motion and a second by Mr. Matthews. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 1, 2. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, board members, our next item is back to closed session again to discuss agenda item 4E. I have already previously read all of the verbiage regarding closed session, so at this time, we are asking those that are here in the audience to please leave at this time, and we will let you know when we are ready to come back into open session. And we are going into closed session at 9:38 p.m. Let's see, I guess I need... Board members, we have reconvened in open session at 10:46 p.m. Was there anything in closed session that we need to take action on? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda.
Are we going to at least put into the minutes that we were asking the administration to come back to us with recommended text language?
Well, we can, but that was covered in closed session.
Yeah, but
We already gave them that direction.
I know, but doesn't that need to go into the minutes?
It's really your pleasure.
6 to 8, if
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you'd like for it to be reflected.
Yeah, if you want it just public, I mean, we can, but since we've already given their marching orders.
Perfect.
We will go back to agenda item 5, comments from board members. Board members, has there been anything in our meeting that you would like to make comments regarding? Hearing none, seeing none, by my determination, we have reached the end of our agenda, and we are adjourned at 10:47 p.m. Thank you very much.